Flight 101 Investigations. Introduction to 10 infamous U.S. plane crashes. The devastation was overwhelming. 5. You couldn't even tell it was an Airbus A310. 7. The wreckage barely resembled an aircraft. It was impossible to tell it once had two engines. Ominous music. Flight 1380's dangerous attempt to land safely. 18. Narrator. At 8:19 p.m., TWA Flight 800 takes to the skies. 40. Give me an update. What do we know? 45. Narrator. Suddenly, a violent explosion rips through the fuselage. Wreckage from the aircraft rains down into the Atlantic. 56. Nearly 75 miles off Manhattan's coast. 59. Investigators begin a painstaking mission. 1. 2. To find out what caused the destruction of Flight 800. 1. 7. NTSB lead investigator Al Dickinson knows time is critical. 10. It was crucial for us to understand what went wrong. 1. Pompey, especially with so many Boeing 747s still in operation. 123. Narrator, the NTSB, heads the main investigation. 125. This search area spans half a mile. 127. Narrator. Meanwhile, the FBI opens its own criminal inquiry. 130. People assume the NTSB has sole jurisdiction. 136. That's incorrect. If terrorism is suspected. 138. We have to act immediately. 141. Narrator. The FBI considers a possible explanation. 145. Terrorism. 147. Just 3 years earlier, a truck bomb struck the World Trade Center. 150. In 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing claimed more lives. 221. Now, investigators wonder, was this explosion part of a pattern? 222. There were widespread reports. 2. Witnesses claimed they saw something streaking upwards. 2. Like a missile striking the plane. 4. Narrator. For weeks, investigators examine every scrap of wreckage. 3. Nearly every part of the 230-foot jet is scrutinized. 42. Throughout the investigation, 27, we searched for any trace of a missile or explosive. 2. Narrator, but no explosive residue is found. 249. Somber music. 251. No pitting, no shrapnel patterns, nothing. 257. We didn't find any blast markings or micro-cratering. 3 by car, that would suggest a bomb. There was no heat damage consistent with explosives. 3:10. It wasn't a bomb. 3.11. None of the debris showed bomb evidence. 3.20. Narrator. The NTSB concludes that a fuel tank explosion brought down Flight 800. 3.26. But what ignited it remains unknown. 31. We had to confirm 3 things. 33. The fuel was flammable. 36. The blast was powerful enough to rupture the tank. 40. And that something sparked the explosion. Let's start with flammability. 50. Menacing music. 3/5. Narrator. Jet fuel, when liquid, isn't flammable. 350T. But when heated, it turns into vapor. 357. Mixed with oxygen inside a tank. 4. It can become dangerously combustible. 4/6. At nearly 14,000 feet, Flight 800's altitude, 4.13. Jet fuel must reach 96 degrees Celsius to ignite, 4.15. And there's a catch. 422. Manufacturers claimed it never gets that hot inside. 426. Narrator Boeing said wing fuel tanks wouldn't reach flammable temperatures. 4.29. Yet on the day of the crash, 439. JFK Airport's temperature peaked at 87 degrees. 4443. well below the ignition point. 47. Could the NTSB's theory be wrong? 52. Investigators begin to examine the aircraft's internal design. Here's the rewritten version for your channel, Flight 101 Investigations. Fuel. The aircraft's schematics reveal a crucial clue. 50. I remember discovering that the air conditioning units were installed just beneath the center fuel tank. 6. And they tend to generate a significant amount of heat. 11. While they cool the cabin, the units themselves can become extremely hot during operation. 16. Narrator. On TWA Flight 800, these systems were working overtime on a hot summer evening. 20. The aircraft's air conditioning units had been running for hours to keep passengers cool. 525. Those packs, located right below the center wing tank, had likely been running non-stop before takeoff. 5.33. Narrator. Could the heat from those systems have raised the temperature inside the tank to a critical level? 5.42. There's only one way to know for sure. 44. The only way to truly understand the internal tank conditions, 5.46, was to replicate them in a test flight. 50. Narrator. Investigators prepare to recreate the exact conditions from the night of the crash. Twit. Okay, let's power it up. 5:59. Narrator. Same aircraft model, same amount of fuel. Most importantly, identical air conditioning systems. 6.07. Engines rumbling. 6.12. It's a high-stakes test, filled with unknowns. 6.25. As the test flight climbs to the same altitude reached by TWA 800. 6.30. Holy cow. 6.32. Narrator. The temperature readings are alarming. 6.36. These packs were hitting 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Brew is about the same temperature you'd use to roast a chicken in an oven. 40C. This is beyond expectations. 6.49. Narrator. Inside the center fuel tank, the temperature spikes to 127 degrees, 6.53. Well above jet fuel's flashpoint. 7.9. Let's bring it down, now. 7.04. Narrator. Now there's no doubt. 7.06. The fuel in TWA 800's tanks had become flammable. But 13. Meanwhile, investigators reviewing the crash of Northwest Airlink Flight 5719, 7.17, discover something disturbing. 7.21. The pilots didn't respond to a low-altitude alert. T3. But why were they descending so fast in the first place? They consider if poor weather was a factor. A 30. Narrator. Meteorological data is checked. 7.31. The temperature, precipitation, and potential for in-flight icing. 7.36. Conditions were ideal for ice to form on the aircraft. 7.39. The aircraft would have flown straight through it. 7.41. Narrator. To understand how severe the icing was. 7.43. Investigators speak with other pilots who flew into Hibbing that night. 7.50. Hey, do you have a few minutes? 7.51. Narrator. The pilots confirm. They faced moderate icing during descent. 7.56. So you were aware of the icing risk on approach to Hibbing? 7. Narrator. Investigators hear that a common technique was used. A high-speed descent to minimize ice buildup. 8.3. But why initiate descent so late? 2.7. Narrator. That technique now seems intentional. 8.09. A strategy to avoid further icing, not a result of pilot error. 8.15. Narrator. Finally, investigators receive a critical piece of evidence. 8:32. The cockpit. Voice recorder. 8:34. Is everyone ready? Roll the tape. A 40. Narrator. What they hear isn't as revealing as what they don't. 8:46. Why isn't the first officer calling out their altitude? 9. June. Narrator. First Officer Erickson should be advising the captain of their descent. 9:04. Alerting him when they neared minimum safe altitude. 9 asks, but he stays silent. 9:16. Gear down. Flaps 20. 9:21. He never warned the captain how close they were to the ground. 9:26. Narrator Captain Falitz was focused on flying the aircraft. 29. He relied on his first officer to monitor altitude. 9:30. But that warning never came. 9:33. Not once did the first officer report their descent as the aircraft approached terrain. 9:42. Passengers scream. 9:50. Narrator. The cockpit recording leaves investigators with more questions.